back, everyone. Now, Nigeria's market street kicked off the week on a negative note, from stocks to interbank and the debt market. So let's bring in Harriet Agbenyi for the details. Morning, Harriet.
Well, good morning, both.
Thank you very much. A bearish Monday. We had a chat about this yesterday, and I was a little bit optimistic, but I was proved wrong. And that was the way the market goes. Don't try to game the market. Don't outsmart the market. The market is always wiser.
But
I'm humbled.
You remember when we started this conversation yesterday, I kind of kept my fingers crossed, although you didn't see it.
Never believed it was going to be massive.
From the way the markets ended last week, it was very clear that profit taking was going to continue. Don't forget, this is pre-election week. And so a lot of things are going to be happening. A lot of investors are going to continue to trade cautiously. And in fact, at some point, they're not going to move at all. Look at the equities market, for instance. We only saw 9 equities appreciating. Now, that is particularly sad.
The stock was disappointing,
exactly.
But I was happy that at least the Naira maintained its stand on the dollar. Now, let's start with that positive news, if you can.
Okay, so let's start with that positive news. The Naira actually did maintain its stand. Dollar, it closed at 199 naira 30 kobo to the dollar. But just before I come to that, let's quickly take a look at the interbank forex market. Now, yesterday, of course, during the conversation with Bosin, it was reported that most analysts were expecting that the market would start bearish, and of course it did start that way, but looking like it raced north to an average 22.9% on tight liquidity. Core money closed at 44%. 30-day money was at 16.4%. Market trades 180-day money at about 18.8%. The Naira to the dollar, as I said, closed at 199 Naira 3 kobo. And it traded within that range, which has been stuck at for almost a month on the interbank money market, supported by dollar sales from the central bank and oil companies. Now, a total of $104.5 million was sold on Monday at a range of 197 naira to 199 naira to the dollar just before the market closed. Now, the Treasury bills market slightly bearish on Monday on different tenors. The June 2015 bill yield closed at 14.96%. The December 2015 yield was at 15.43%. And the February 2015 instrument was at 16.94%. And looking at the bond market now, demand softened at the fixed income market, sending yields higher, 15.10% for the FGN bond April 2017 at 16.36%, and the 2015 20.15% July 2034 bond closed at about 16.79%. But the biggest story for us, looking at the equities market very closely now, and both will be talking to a stock market analyst in a moment, was the fact that the market actually started facing south, but it lost a whopping 2.57%. Of course, during the conversation yesterday morning, it seemed as if, or rather the stockbroker actually said that Zenith Bank had been marked down for dividend payment. Of course, Bosu is going to get more insight on that, but looking at those numbers now, the all-share index actually lost about 257 basis points, and financial services lost about 365 basis points. Bosu.
Okay, now, Harry, stick around. We'll talk more about the equities, but let me give a very quick. We understand Rotimi Fakayejo is on the line, but just before we get to you, Rotimi, I'm sure you're listening to us and you're watching the show, so give us about a second to give a bit of a background to that. Harriet is sticking by in the studio. She ain't going anywhere. She's on the news. She's on the market together. We're on the market news and all that together. If you look at the all-share index yesterday, 2.57%, that was a massive haircut to start a brand new week. That was very disappointing. But of course, if you look at how the numbers are coming through, Zenith Bank was marked down for 175 kobo cash dividend. Profit taking still on GT Bank until it goes for markdown. Yesterday, we saw 5% downside on the only oil producing company listed on our market, that's Seplat Petroleum. That was also part of the load shedding that we had on Monday. Dangote Sugar, and of course the big brother on the market, Dangote Cement as well. So when these companies are on the downside, then you expect the market to also turn south. So that was actually how we saw Monday kicking off. Of course, a few earnings came on the wire. One bit of them were disappointing. Transcorp PLC, we'll chat about that in a few minutes from now. Transcorp is paying a cash dividend of about 37 kobo, but its revenue, profit before tax, and net earnings, net profit were all in the red. Now, that was disappointing Monday, but let's get put some flesh in that. Rotimi Fakayejo from Enterprise Capital, the CEO and a trader. Talk to us. Good morning to you, Rotimi.
Good morning, both.
I'm sure all of you went home yesterday a little bit disappointed. Where are you?
Well, the extent of the problem yesterday was very, very bizarre. We weren't expecting anything close to 2% or even the peak of 1%. But it was quite really, really very embarrassing yesterday for us to close at such a level. Also for the fact that more than just about 9 equities actually gained the price. And the volume value traded yesterday was also very, very disappointing. The value traded yesterday was just about 1.98 billion, and these figures are really very frightening for now.
Rotimi, I was one of the few optimists perhaps on the market street yesterday morning. Perhaps I had a nice weekend and I woke up on the right side of my bed. So on Monday morning, and I was here on the show, and I was saying, hey, hold on a minute, we weren't going to see that much of load shedding this week. The heat is over out of the market, but 2.57%, taking the all-share index below the 30,000 psychological level, was another low for the market. But aside beside what we saw yesterday, look at the volumes that we saw on Monday coming through from small cap lenders such as Unity Bank, for example. Volume hasn't really turned out in GT Bank until it goes for markdown. Where do you think this pressure is coming from? Those who want some of their dividend in before the elections or perhaps after the elections, or those who still believe that yes, the market is due for a further correction down south because of the election fever?
Well, I don't really think the market is due for correction. I think what is most important at this point in time is the fact that the tight liquidity within the system is really biting hard on the market. Also, as Harriet mentioned earlier on, that we are in pre-election week. I think this also has a major significant role to play. But it's very shocking that GT Bank will actually lose to that extent yesterday, even as it's supposed to be marked down for dividend today. So investors are not really patient to actually wait for them to actualize their dividend return before they can actually start selling. And like I said much earlier, I said the value that was traded yesterday is another thing that is not really going down well with operators and the regulators, because that value was really, really very low. If not for the 85 million units of shares that was traded for Unity Bank, the volume also would have been terribly low. So I think these are really coming up all at once, and also for the fact that we are still having a further drop in the price of the crude oil. So many things are happening at the same time. And also yesterday we saw the market capitalization dropping below the 10 trillion psychological line, and I think that also is another key word to actually look at. So I believe that today I don't see it getting any better. I just hope that things will take shape thereafter.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Transcorp. Give us a bit of a sense of this company that came to the market last year. The CEO and everyone sounding very optimistic, as it were, about what happens to this big cap leisure and hospitality company on the local bourse. But yesterday, revenue was down about 1.6%. Profit before tax and net profit were also in the negative region. Now, do you think investors are well compensated, as it were, with 35 kobo or 37 kobo per share for Transcorp?
Well, I don't think they are impressed. I would say the stock was listed. We see the stock stagnating at the listed price. That means there hasn't been any activity or any meaningful activity on that particular stock since it was listed. With a price of, with a dividend of 37 kobo for that stock, that means that is a yield of about a dividend yield of about 3.7, which is well below the market average. So investors are not really impressed with this kind of result. And one thing that is giving concern as well is the holding company, which is the Transcorp Group, which is also listed in the state. We are still expecting the result of that. And more as we can get this kind of result from Transcorp Hotel, we may not really be getting something much better from the Transcorp holding. And not even as they are in the energy sector. But with the way it stands right now, I think the results that are still coming forth will definitely dictate the next two. There are still many banks that have not shown their results. We saw Access Bank bring in their results yesterday, but that result will not salvage the extent of loss that the stock suffered yesterday. So we expect good things to come if the results really actually want to take to.
Okay, Rotimi, let's take a final one with you. I'm sure you've heard about the latest February inflation data, uptick of 0.2% for the composite price index, or what you call the CPIX, up to 8.4%. Does this give you any sense of upset for the market? How do you think the market will put in this latest data, as it were?
Well, the market is very responsive, and with this kind of news coming from MBS is really another concern. But it is not a major concern because the CPI is still being kept within a single digit, and the extent of change is just about 0.2, 0.02. So I expect that the market will not factor in much of it. But other factors that are actually governing the price movement are really not favorable at this point in time. And from now, the market is trading at 0.08% down. And I think it's just the starting point for today. So we're going to see much volume, much more value being traded later. But I don't really think it's going to translate into an upward movement for the closing price of the market.
All right, Rotimi Fakayejo, CEO at Enterprise Capital, we thank you very much for your time this morning, and we hope you had a very profitable and nice business day with less concerns, not with the 0.2 inflation increase for the month of February to 8.4%. That's the breaking news, as you may just be hearing that for us here. The Statistician General, Dr. Yemekale, was on the show a few minutes ago talking about this inflation data and providing some background into that.